I have heard so many interviews that the leaders do through the years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm an old man, but I have never experienced, never heard something like what Isaias of Eritrea did to Abiy, how he expressed his feelings to the very childish government of Abiy Ahmed down there in Ethiopia that is now acting like a terrorist, boasting and terrorizing the whole nations, fights everywhere, problems everywhere, inside the country, definitely, against the Oromos, against the Amharas, against the Tigrayans, against the rest of the country. I mean, everybody in that country is just congested with wars and stuff, including the Arabs for that matter. You go outside the country, Ethiopia keeps on boasting against the Djiboutians, the Somalians, the Eritreans. And then the Sudanese, the president of Eritrea just trashed everything that Abiy talks about in terms of his power, in terms of his influence, in terms of his ideas, in terms of his mind. He simply trashed him in probably about 5 words. So 5 expressions. We're going to discuss that, and I will give you a little bit show of the video of the interview, and then we're going to go. I will define exactly what he called them. Anybody who knows the Eritrean struggle for independence and the determination of the current leaders of the country as such, when it comes to fighting, when it comes to standing on a principle and confront the whole world no matter what, including the United Nations, and this kid coming without knowing all this, or he probably has forgotten the history of Ethiopia versus the Eritreans when Eritrea was fighting their colonialism in any way. It came as a surprise to Isaias Afwerki, the amount of boasting, the amount of talks, the amount of dirt in the mouth, the amount of boasting, the amount of exaggerating their power, the way they try to put it to the wall as to what Eritrea means to Ethiopia, part of it, and violating our rights to the person that has registered history in different ways of survival in the armed struggle of mankind. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the way he defined it.
ለብልጽግና ስትራቴጂ ክልተ ማያት ዝብል ዘይክውነታዊ ጦም ሒዙ ሕሉፍ ሓሊፉ ንሉዓላውነት ኤርትራ ዘነጻጸረ ቀጻልን ኣሰልካይን ፕሮፓጋንዳዊ ዘመተ ከካይድ ጸኒሕሎ እዚ ጽዑቕ ናይ ፕሮፓጋንዳ ዘመተ ኩናት ንምእዋጅን ንምውላዕን ዝጥጃእ ዘሎ ቅድመ ምድላዋትን ስጋኣትን ምዃኑ ዝገልጹ ወገናት እውን ኣለዉ በቲ ካልእ ወገን ኣብ ክልላት ትግራይ ኣምሓራ ኦሮምያን ካልእን ዘሎ ዘቤታዊ ኩነታት ኢትዮጵያ ኣዝዩ ኣሰካፊ እዩ ኣብ ኢትዮጵያ ዘሎ ኩነታት ናበይ ከምርሕ ይኽእል ኣብ ልዕሊ ኤርትራ ክህልዎ ዝኽእል ጽልዋኸ
Well, ladies and gentlemen, journalists asked him about the tension that Abiy Ahmed created in the area against the Ethiopians and the Eritreans in general, and where is this thing going? What exactly is going to happen to Ethiopia? What is the final destination, political destination of the country, and what may his threat be to Eritreans? In what way should we be careful about? See, this is a question that journalists asked. And the answer was,
أنا قد حتى توصعهم ما حشي بقولكم يا حسيبنا هذا 4 فيدالات دلو أكرونيم مالاتنين.
Well, before he goes there, what he says was, really he didn't find the question itself as important because there is really nothing to talk about. A very unique, out of the human experience, a kid that doesn't know politics and diplomacy, and then all this rhetoric going on, really this doesn't deserve even to be a question instead of something else.
كراتلن لا سنف نداي سوس أموداتا سنف نداي أموداتا كم زد مسألة أجندة سريعو نزي هزبزي أب هوكت كوتو تعوج ذا اللغينات لا بحق ذا قرم نقر.
Well, the president says he's just surprised about the number of. He couldn't even catch up with the boasts, with the exaggerations. The war has been already waged several times against Eritrea because war is not necessarily with fighting. Diplomacy is also war if you use it negatively, actually, you know what I'm saying? And then also rhetoric and journalism. All this bad mouthing, the war has been waged already. People were just waiting how he's going to do it. Therefore, he classified him within 4 expressions, ladies and gentlemen.
قرم نقوم ذا قرم نقر سمعنا نفلت فينا بزعنا قرمو سرعتات بشبيات موصل نورو كويناتات وجي نيرهم خمزي.
We've seen a lot of stuff. Ethiopians were coming with different verbals, attacks. They were just coming with different kind of attitudes, but we have never seen something like this in our history.
سمعت فلت نقر عفنا تحت سلمن تعيو خمزي عينت أواجاتنا كوينات قدامي أواج ناكوينات خانصار حزب إثيوبيا.
But we don't know what's going on. I mean, only to use ASOP, which is ready for them, but for lawfully they can use it. Why all this stuff? Why is Abiy so much disturbed to the point of obsession with Eritrea? What is going on? And the president concluded that his attack in the priority level of the relationship is against the Ethiopian people.
زناي معايات ناي خالد بحال مدامي قرب تاعته لي موداتو زوخينات زي تعوجوا لي كوينات ناي معايات تلك مواج نمن انا بقطع ناي قيه بحر ناي كون ناي 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 كوينات غاتو وجلا نمن غاتو وجلا.
Why all this bargain is going on about? You're talking about tonight. I mean, who are you really trying to fight back? Who are the enemies in this situation instead of sharing it? War has been waged everywhere, inside the country and outside the country. This is absurdity and being a lunatic, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way he put it. Okay?
تغيروا غمزة تغيروا تبعيلو قدم كلادم فانوتات كانت فينا تبعيلو أنصار حزبي أمحرا أواج ناكوين.
Pretoria argument was just designed to destroy the Amharas, that they call themselves Fano.
كوينات تأوجوا أنصار تقرأ كوينات تأوجوا أنصار أورومو كوينات تأوجوا أنصار صومال كوينات تأوجوا.
War was basically there was a threat against the Tigrayans, against the Somalians, against people,
أنصار عفر كوينات تأوجوا
against the Afars, against the Oromos.
مودعتا دي بلو كوينات تأوجوا مودعتا ناي لوبي وجلتات زكايدو دلو عزمته ناي قيح بحر مسكوت ناي بحري معلت زرباتات فسيمكا توم دسمو عقالات يوم يدبل أنا.
The lobbyists just talking about the race, this and that. And then I'm worried about the people who really pay attention to this kind of things because there is really nothing into it. He dismisses it completely.
كم زاد مسألة قلولا ودمر حسب سنف تراي سنف نداي فرح سسع سنف في الكحزة نداي الكحزة فرح بل سسع على اللي كله سسع زين انت نقد مجلسنا زين تاعتنا بعد الله اجي عدم ابقى يقول تعطوا 50 لهم 50 لهم من 50 لهم اوصيهم نحن 50 لنا 50 لنا ولفي ناي نداياتي ولفي ناي سسعاتي ولفي ناي فرحاتي ولفي ناي سنفات ካልእ ትርጉም ክህልዎ
Well, listen, gentlemen, I'm not going to waste your time, but he classified him as a terrible loser, number one, because I agree. Loser, one who cannot harvest his accomplishments. He had a lot of opportunities to help his people and then to work something united with Eritrea, at least mentally, but the guy is a loser. A loser. He couldn't even harvest the base. The foundations that put him in place. You remember the Eritreans fought the Tigrayans basically and put him in power. Eritrean sacrifice. He couldn't even use that. Actually, he betrayed them. He betrayed them. So he's a loser. He called him coward, who uses his tongue to scare the well-tested, the more very experienced Eritrean fighters. I mean, years of experience and maturity into contemplation and submission. Unbelievable. He underlines this one. He tries to scare who? He's talking about all kind of weapons. He's talking about how many soldiers millions and stuff against Eritrea. And he's talking about going there and taking over Eritrea. Sometimes they talk about the whole country. Sometimes they draw maps, slicing the country, making half of it part of Ethiopia and all this. Coward, a person who cannot do anything, just bluffs and talks only. That's all he is. And that's exactly how he defined him. He called him a very weak person who cannot take the responsibilities vested on his administration in relation to the Ethiopian people, ladies and gentlemen. All this prostitution, all these random rapes, all these killings, all these fights, about 12 liberation movements trying to liberate from Ethiopia. Even his groups beat people who glorify the Ethiopian flag, ladies and gentlemen, prostitution, lack of education, disease, hunger, refugee life, begging. And desperate Ethiopians running everywhere, dying everywhere. But this is exactly what Ethiopians got from this government. This is what he produced. Therefore, he called him extremely weak. Weak. Very weak personality. Of course, he addressed the amount of selfishness, the amount of corruption going on in Ethiopia, the kind of deals he's making with foreign countries, the gold that's going on, being sold to European Union, to the Arab Union, Arab Emirates, in exchange of weapons and all this extremely selfish, extremely corrupt. His soldiers, his leaders, the leaders of soldiers, and the generals, everybody in his office, the ministers have become millionaires out of nothing. And the Ethiopians are biting the dust. So, extremely selfish human being. His selfishness goes beyond money into territorial ambitions without any capacity, any historical consensus, historical substance. This guy wants to invade and expand Ethiopia beyond his control. Uneducated bastard. The last one, he called him a banda, which is traitor, a person who doesn't hesitate to sell his country for a piece of change, for a change actually from the masters, a person who has become a slave, official slave of the other countries. This is what I'm talking about. He is selling his country for a piece of change. Let's change from the Arab Emirates. Well, after he did this, he told him that he was good for nothing, not even worth talking. All these bluffs, things like that. He just said, well, so far we just have to be in defensive mode of existence and continue our work without any obstacles. And then we're going to see exactly what he's going to do if he is going to come. But we ain't got no time to talk to this guy. We ain't got no time to think about him. We don't have any insecurity about this bluff. We are secure, united, and we're going to do our lives as we did before, and we continue to develop the country as much as we can. Our concentration now is to develop the country. We are in development phase of our struggle as Eritreans, so we have nothing to worry about. Don't worry and do not even listen to this. We have no ears to this little thing that he's doing because he's big is small. He thinks he's so big. He's too little, too minute. This is exactly how Isaias Afwerki classified Mr. Abiy. And I don't think Abiy is going to stay in power, and Eritrea will continue to defend itself. Isaias Afwerki said that we don't need any permission to accelerate and accommodate our defense needs in times of necessary. It's kind of action we got to take, we're going to take it. And people like this cannot survive. They shouldn't be allowed to disturb our region, our peace, our political friendship, our neighborhood. Therefore, he's got to go. In other words, that's the way I understood it. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's make this channel big because we're going to bring news like this, okay? And then I appreciate if you show appreciation by liking and subscribing and sharing, and I'll see you next time. Chill. According to the president, the guy is not capable of fighting. He's not capable of doing anything. Therefore, we're going to wait and see what is going to happen to Ethiopia. How Ethiopians will unite to resolve the issue, the emergency issue, because their country is in the verge of separation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next time.